his consciously hidden childhood accent. Living up to its promise, America welcomed newcomers to its shores that might try something new. This Professor Hermann was most likely a boy when he shipped west. Old accents bring old hatreds, I recall my headmaster at the King's Academy taught me. Royal doors remain closed to Connaught men, his way of telling me to hide my own native Irish accent, whilst employed in Albion. "Just you wait and see," the dark-skinned protector replied to his employer, his own concerned eyes never leaving the trench rim. He wasn't worried about a Hun raiding party or a stick bomb attack. His concern, as indicated by his restless, weaponless hands, was only for the boy. No experienced trench fighter, not even the indefatigable Black Death Johnson, stood in a forward trench without a weapon in his hand. Yet here stood America's indestructible man, wiping sweaty palms on his doughboy khakis, barely managing to conceal his own nervous concern as the boy's father did his disciplined American accent. The old man nervously rubbed the pocket watch crystal as the hour ticked away. The hellfighter watched as the last grains of sand poured through the concave of an hourglass. In the distance, the Americans' French-made rifles reported shot after shot. The nervous professor looked at his bodyguard with grim resignation. What could he be nervous about, I thought? His son was transformed into an unstoppable engine of destruction, who single-handedly broke through the German Fuchs' best infantrymen and fortifications with a spear, a sword, and a shield. "Don't you fret now, Professor. Hugo is one smart boy. The apple don't fall far from the tree. You'll see." The Negro glanced at his own primitive time device. As sand fell in single grains, the steady concentrated pour now diminished by the past hour. As if on cue, a bloody howl charged across the heavens, getting closer and closer until the trench was slammed by a real impact. Surely a Hun mortar had hit us this time, as muddy debris was strewn everywhere, the impact knocking Fock and coming to the muddy trench floor. We all felt the shell impact this time. We had to abandon the trench before the slow fuse burned down, and our position was just another crater in no man's land. Hall and I helped See to his feet, while the Frenchies did the same with Fock. Pershing and Chet Phillips were standing over the kneeling American archaeologist. The hellfighter also had taken a knee. The doughboy riflemen gathered around the senior officers, their bayoneted shakoes held ready. "We must flee!" shouted Marshal Foch to the Americans, who stood and looked at him silently. Laying in the freshly churned mud was the Titan, stunned by the force of his impact into the trench. There was no German shell hissing away with a burning fuse. The armored warrior had returned as dramatically as he departed, like a thunderbolt sent from Olympus striking the earth. One of Marshal Foch's aides shouted, "Mon Dieu, help him!" He attempted to rush to the fallen Titan's assistance. "No!" cried the American professor, his black companion also putting up a hand in protestation as to the Frenchman's honorable actions. All attention focused on the fallen warrior. Nobody had seen the final grain of sand bounce from one edge of the glass passageway to the other, finally making its slow descent to the pile of glass-enclosed white beach sand, now united in a single heap, the handful of silicate particles collected from where a young Helene named Cassandra was bound to pillars, destined for a grisly fate. It shifted and settled, reminding Kronos to open and close the energy gate, until again special words and a special shield would focus them anew. Before the French officer reached the Titan, the thunderous lion's roar ripped through the trench, the same flash of brilliant light as we had witnessed earlier. As the awesome display dissipated, we were shocked and yet not that the Titan had transformed again back to the 12-year-old boy. The Americans didn't have a special weapon to break the 4-year stalemate of this damned trench warfare. They had a gift from the heavens themselves. The older American helped his son from the muddy trench pallet, their boy Johnson doffing his own trench coat to cover the boy, while 3 of the doughboys seemingly wrestled with the metal spear, pulling it from the trench's rear wall. If I didn't know better, I'd swear it was growling and cursing for blood, in what sounded like my grandfather's old Gaelic tongue. The 4th Sammy replaced the spear's hood, and the growling and cursing seemed to stop. Lifting the boy to his thin, muscled shoulders, the hellfighter attempted to cover the boy's naked legs, the boy's father, ever grateful, holding the lad's hand. Smiling ear to ear, his mustachioed face beaming, Blackjack Pershing addressed the group. "Gentlemen, generals, His Majesty's representatives, when you asked us to stop the war, we promised you we would. Today was just the first demonstration of just how we'll do it. As President Wilson has assured you, this great war of 4 years will be over in 60 days, and thanks to our special weapon, it is a guarantee. While the technical details of this awesome fighter's origins must remain a secret at this time, you may return to your respective governments, assuring them that Uncle Sam is on the job." putting one hand on the American professor's shoulders. Pershing reintroduced his fellows. Gentlemen, generals, messieurs, H-Hour is a success. I present to you, codename Abraxas. The Hearst boys are calling him the All-American. Michael James Riley IV closed his great-grandfather Mick's journal, checking one more time the British Directorate of Military Intelligence gold leafing and the World War I-era Corps of Intelligence Police declassified stamps. They seemed authentic, as did similar stamps on the trunk of journals locked away these many years in his great-aunt Beth's Yonkers Palisade home. Aunt Beth had died, like so many of his older family members, during the week of Thanksgiving. For the last 20 years, a family member, close or distant, would shuffle off the mortal coil the week of Thanksgiving. Now at 35 years of age, with Aunt Beth's passing, he was alone in the old stone and wood mansion. The only family she had remaining, Beth Stalter bequeathed her brother-in-law Mick Riley's American home to his only surviving relative, his great-grandson, Michael James. The roof leaked, the pool was cracked, and the boiler and kitchen hadn't been replaced since the Reagan administration, when his great-grandfather had died, leaving the property to Beth. Michael Riley ran his fingers across the journal one more time. The All-American. He was a pulp character. Nobody even knew who he was these days, with ice princesses and tales of little mermaids. Nobody cared about armored war heroes in 2005. That was so 80s. Like all those old Jimbo films. It was all right-wing propaganda nonsense. Maybe, thought Michael, some collector would buy all of this junk. He'd check eBay and see if any of the Republican weirdos wanted to add this stuff to their collections of Bibles and AK-47s. He measured the heft of his great-grandfather's old CIP badge with the number 17 engraved into its face. Agent 17. Ha! He flipped the badge in the air, and fumble fingers, he dropped it, allowing the antique badge to skitter across the dusty attic floor. Damn it! Michael raced after the badge, not wanting to lose the valuable piece of junk. The badge came to rest in front of an old armoire blocked with attic debris. Unable to reach the badge, Michael was forced to move the heavy boxes of books and vintage World War I and World War II memorabilia. Pushing the last steamer trunk aside, Riley reached for the badge when the now unblocked armoire door swung open, striking him in the head as he knelt forward. Ah! Rubbing his head, Michael looked into the once blocked-off armoire. Inside it were a long, canvas-wrapped shaft and a tan leather valise, similar in size to an artist's portfolio, with knotted leather straps holding it tightly sealed. If it was what he thought it was, he would make a small fortune selling it to some cosplay kid in Germany. His aunt was always entertaining, but leave it to her to put toys in an old armoire like they were real. Sweet old gal. Still, it had to be 50 years or more since anybody made this type of collectible. Selling them would be well worth the Google time, and he could hopefully get a head start on the upcoming home repairs without digging into his pocket first. He reached for the long, canvas-wrapped spear. When his hand touched it, it moved. It vibrated. He reached for it again. He grabbed it, and it shook itself violently. An audio unit embedded in it even made growling noises. Michael Riley reached a third time. Grabbing the shaft, it shook, growled, and even hissed as it pulled itself from his hands. What the hell? He reached instead for the brown leather valise. It did not resist him, or make any noise, or vibrate to his relief. It had to weigh 25 pounds. Placing the leather case on a nearby steamer trunk, he undid the thong laces and struggled with the ancient brass zipper. Flipping the valise lid, he revealed a large metal discus shield. It looked like a large metal snake, coiled, with a lion's head at its center. The 3D details were amazing. The hair of the lion seemed like the real thing, only dipped in liquid silver, then hardened. He lifted it to check the silversmith's pedigree stamp. 25 pounds of World War I silver would net a pretty penny. He found nothing. That was odd. He thought craftsmanship like this was something to make any capitalist proud. Michael Riley was puzzled why he couldn't even find a casting seam. How on earth was this thing made? Aside from the intricately detailed serpent with the lion's head, the only marking on it were 39 characters in a language which he was clueless. Wait, he thought. The words were in his great-grandfather's journal. What if... He trailed off. No, this was not a magic shield, and those were not magic words, even if he could read them. It was silly. A 35-year-old man thinking he'd found a magic shield that belonged to his great-grandfather's World War I sidekick. What a joke. He had always heard that Great-Grandpa McRiley was quite the jokester. He even had me fooled. Michael retrieved his ever-present Something brand cell phone and snapped a photo of the old metal shield, then casually flipped the leather valise closed, concealing the old antique collectible. He reached for the attic light string and doused the bulb. He walked to the attic access door, looking back. He brought his cell phone to his mouth and spoke. "Sarah?" An electronic female voice responded. "This is Sarah. How may I help you?" Michael smiled and replied to the automated search engine. "Do internet search. World War I. Magic Shield. The All-American." "Thank you," the voice on the handheld device answered. "World War I. Magic Shield. The All-American. Searching."